Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. We'll maybe go on to the next slide, Joe. My name is Karen Jackson. I'm an assistant head of school within the business school. And I'm also joined by Susanna. So,
hello, I'm Susanna Badeno and I'm from the international team.
That's great. So Susanna's going to join me for the Q&A session at the end. We're going to do two things today. We're going to introduce some specifics about the Global Trade and Business Top-Up Programme. I'm going to do that with a few slides, and then we're going to use the second half of the session, which you can shape by asking us questions, which we will respond to. So please put your questions into the Q&A box. If there's anything as we go along that Susanna is able to answer in the text, she will do so, but we will also save some questions for the end as well. So as we go along, if any question occurs to you, just pop it in the Q&A box and we'll pick them all up at the end. Okay, so let me do, first of all, introduce the team that deliver the Global Trade and Business Programme. So on the left-hand side here, we've got Helen. She's the course leader, and she also teaches two of the modules on the programme, which I will explain in a few moments. There's myself, I teach on the programme, I teach international trade. There is then quite a long name there, and we're going to make a shorter version because he's known as Nodas, and he teaches professional experience. And then there's Karen teaching the international economy, and lastly Simon, who teaches strategic perspectives. So I will show you how the modules that we all teach are linked together in a moment, but that's the team who delivered the programme. Okay, so I wanted first of all to do just ask you a couple of questions to check how much the audience already know about the university. But another thing I would like to ask of you, if possible, is if you are willing, it'd be really great for you to introduce yourself in the chat so that we know who's here today with us, and perhaps we can add a little bit of flavour depending on where you're coming from and what your interest is. So if you were able to add into the chat box a bit of information about yourself, that would be great. And while you're doing that, let me ask you a couple of questions about the university in general. So we'll do this as a form of a poll, and just to test everybody's knowledge about the university history. So for the people listening, do you think the university history dates back to 1995, 1982, 1992, or 1838? Thank you, Denise. That's great to see you. That's great. So I'm not sure that we've got the poll up and running. Oh, here we are. Yeah. So. Okay, so if you're able, that's great. I can see people answering the poll now. The second question is also, where is Westminster Business School located? You've got a map there. Do you think it's located at Cavendish, Marylebone, Regent, or outside central London? So you should be able to see that there's a poll. And you should be able to put your responses into the poll. So let's just see how many people guess correct about the university history and specifically Westminster Business School is located. So we've got a bit of a mixture of answers at the moment. Let's just see whether anybody else wants to add in before we go through. Okay, so we have got 100% correct on the history of the university. It is in fact 1838, and the building I showed you in the previous slide is in fact the original building from the start of the origins of the university in 1838. That building is based at Regent. And there's a bit of a mixture of answers on where the business school is located. I can tell you that on that map, it's the campus, which is opposite Madame Tussauds at Baker Street on Marylebone Road, and it's the Marylebone campus. The one I showed you in the first picture is Regent's campus, which, to give you an idea, is about a 10-minute walk away. All of the teaching for this programme we're about to talk about is all at Marylebone in central London. All right, so there were just a couple of questions to warm up for the morning, and let's now go onwards and talk about the specifics of the programme. So in terms of the basic details of the programme, this programme is intended for people who have studied elsewhere for the equivalent of 2 years of an undergraduate programme. So we're expecting that students will come in and they will be taking 1 year at the University of Westminster to complete their BA degree. Now, this means that we will have a range of students from different backgrounds. So some students, some people listening today, or you may know of people who are actually already studying in the UK and they just want to move to Westminster or move to the programme at Westminster and finish their degree. Of course, there'll be plenty of other students who will be actually studying outside the UK. But the important thing is that we're not expecting that the students will have a background in global trade. In fact, we're expecting that our students will have a background generally in business and management studies and perhaps economics. So the idea is that we have a group of students that would benefit from a final year where they learn to apply their business knowledge in a global trade context, whilst continuing to learn a bit more about business. The interesting fact about this course, which I'll tell you more about in a moment, is that it's quite unusual for a final year course to include an international work experience visit, which is included within this programme. So we'll just go on to the next slide. That's great. So for some people listening, you may be familiar with the SQA HND programme. I should say that the Scottish Qualification Authority Higher National Diploma also has a slightly different name when it's being taught in China. So it's sometimes referred to as the Advanced Diploma. And therefore, if you're doing the SQA HND or the SQA AD, it's the same thing, essentially. You might be doing it in China, you might be doing it in the UK or in other parts of the world. This is an applicable programme that if you complete it, you can then come to join the global trade and business at Westminster. So you might be doing the HND in global trade and business or business with IT, accounting, marketing or HRM. What we'd expect to see is an average of B in the graded units. So if you're doing 3 graded units, that would be 3 Bs or A, B, C. If you're doing 2 graded units, which some people are in this programme, then it would either be A, C or B, B. Notice that you also need to meet our English language requirements, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. The other type of HND, so some of you might be sitting there thinking, I'm not doing the SQA HND, I'm doing the BTEC HND, that's also applicable. So students studying business, accounting and finance, business management, entrepreneurship and small business, HRM marketing, operations management and law, you can also apply for this programme. Again, in this case, you will need a merit or a distinction and at least a pass in all of the units. Again, you do need to pass the English language requirements. But you might be sitting here and thinking that there are lots of other qualifications, which of course there are, which would be suitable for entry. I haven't listed them. It might be because you're already studying at a university in another country. It might be because you're actually already studying at a university in the UK even. Or it might be because, like Denise, you're coming from an awareness of the ATHE programme. Many other programmes are already mapped out. In the case where they're not, we're also willing to look at each case individually, and it's the course leader, Helen, that will make the decision on those cases. So don't be distracted if I haven't listed a programme which you're studying or which you're familiar with. We'll also consider those courses on a case-by-case as needed, and some of which are already mapped, in fact. So the English language, which I mentioned, some of you may also be sitting there thinking that you know of students or you are a student yourself and you're concerned that you haven't met the IELTS requirement or the equivalent in Duolingo or the equivalent in many other English language tests. Now, you can go online and you can have a look at all these equivalences. And when you see these equivalences, you might say, well, I'm not confident I'm going to meet these requirements before I come to the UK. If that's the case, you can in fact do a pre-sessional English programme. I would say that there's also a number of people who choose to do a pre-sessional English programme because they want to be in the UK earlier if they've already been studying overseas. And therefore, they think there's a great advantage from having more exposure to English language in a classroom environment before starting the programme properly. So whatever your reason, whether you're a little bit short of the English language requirement or you would like to come a bit earlier, pre-sessional English can be a useful path for you. Now, if you're going to consider doing a 7-week online pre-sessional English course in order to meet the requirements, there is a scholarship available for this summer. The details are here on the slide. You can, my colleague has also put the details for the application form into the chat. So you will have that. So if you're struggling to scan the QR code, but the essential information is that if you're doing the online 7-week pre-sessional, then there is a scholarship available which will cover all of the fee for the course. You will need to have received a place, and you will need to confirm your place with a deposit for the BA Global Trade and Business by the 20th of May. And you will also need to submit an application for the scholarship by the 20th of May. As I say, scan the QR code or note the link, and you can actually see the application form, and you can send any inquiries about the scholarship for this summer to Angela Lloyd, and her email address is here. Okay, so returning to what I mentioned a few slides ago, one of the interesting parts about the course is that there will be an international work visit embedded within the course. That doesn't mean we'll just take you on a visit, or students that you know of on a visit. This means that actually the work visit is an integral part of the programme. So what do I mean by that? That actually there's a module, the professional experience module, which will lead up to the visit, which will take students through what they're going to learn in the visit, will encourage students to be able to think about how they handle the work visit. The work visit will then take place over around 5 nights, so around a week. And then an assessment will cover the result of the visit. So it will be an integrated part of one of the modules on the programme. Now, the costs for the visit are largely covered by the fee. So by that, I mean that all of the flight or the Eurostar tickets, 5 nights in accommodation, the company visits, and the evening meals for 2 or 3 of the nights will all be covered within the course fee. So why have we included this within the course? We've included it within the course because we believe it's an important part of being able to take the information that students learn while they are in the classroom and actually applying it to the real world. So I want to just give you a quick example. We're going to move this work experience visit around different locations year on year. But one of the ideas we have is, given the nature of the course, is to perhaps take students to Greece to have a look at the real face of Chinese investment in Greece. There is a really big example of investment in the port area, where Costco has invested in Piraeus Port, which is right next to the capital city of Athens. And we can actually see trade in action by going around the port, and we can actually see the impact of the investment in the port, and we can actually speak to people in the locality and see the effect of the investment, and we can speak to people such as policymakers in government to hear their views. So it's an example of how we will use the work visit to actually see the real face of things we've talked about in the course. Okay, so we'll go on. And a few things I wanted to mention about other special features of the programme. One is that students will be able to access and learn to use industry standard software. So we have currently one Bloomberg room, but we also have a second Bloomberg room that should be available from the summer. In addition to that, we're also, we currently have online access to Bloomberg. So this means that students will be able to get used to using Bloomberg, and this can be a really useful skill if they're thinking about working in the financial sector afterwards. You'll also get access to industry standard trade data, which is the World Integrated Trade Solution, which is hosted at the World Bank, and we'll also use data sets such as the United Nations Comtrade. These will be embedded within the modules, including the project. The second thing is that the teaching staff don't just teach in the classroom, and I give some examples here, but essentially we also try and shape policy by writing in the media and also contributing to things like government inquiries, where they're exploring topics which are covered in our modules, and we have contributed to trying to shape government policy decisions in this area. So that's another aspect of the module. And thirdly, I really would say it's an obvious one, but I've shown you the location of Westminster Business School, and given the location in the centre of London, it's an obvious thing, but it's worth saying that of course it's quite exciting to study a programme, Global Trade and Business, in the heart of one of the main financial business cities in the world. So it's a great opportunity to actually also, while you're spending time with us, to take advantage of the people we invite to come into our campus, because it's easy for us to invite people from the business sector, from the financial sector into our campus, but you can also easily go out and network in the evenings, in your spare time, and really get involved in the business world. Okay, so then how does it all fit together, the programme? So I introduced all the team at the beginning. So let me just put together then how the team works through these modules during the programme. So as I mentioned, students will be coming from having studied previously up to the equivalent of the end of the second year in the UK system. So you'll have studied to the level 5, and you will come in to do a one-year programme with us. Now, in semester 1, students will do 3 modules. The first will be international economy with Karen. The international economy module gives you a perspective of not just trade issues, but also how trade issues fit more generally with the international economy. Second of all, you'll do strategic perspectives module with Simon. This is very interesting because it gives you an option to do things like simulations, to think about what would you do if you were working in a business and you were faced with a particular decision. Helen will also teach the research methods module, and if you're coming from one of the awards I've mentioned, maybe an HND programme, maybe an ATHE programme, or maybe you're coming from outside the UK, it's really important to understand what our expectations of you are and to be trained in how you can meet those expectations. What type of referencing do we expect, and so forth. What type of, are there any hints and tips for study skills? So we do that in this module in order to give you a kind of segue into the project module in the second semester. So the second semester will be this project module where you will get a choice to actually do a study a bit more of something which is a particular interest to you. You'll also do the professional experience module, which I've mentioned, which involves the international work experience. And I will teach the international trade module, which is a specialist module looking at trade policy. So that I do introduce some trade theory. There's no expectation students will have done this before, but most of the module is focused on actually trade policy. And the assessment for the course is divided into a policy-focused report and also an academic-focused article that will be written. So it's a very practical module. Okay, so that's the structure of the programme. Just to finally mention, before we come to the Q&A, please don't forget to put things into the Q&A. I have also another suggestion if you would like to learn a little bit more. In particular, if you're thinking, right, I know something now about the programme, I know how it's structured, but I'd like to understand a little bit more about the types of topics beyond what I've explained in that programme structure, then please consider having a look at a debate that we hosted, which has been recorded and is on YouTube. And it's where myself, Helen and Nodas introduce some of the topics and themes which are going to be covered in this programme. So my colleague is going to put the YouTube link in the chat, so that if you would like to look at it later, you can do. And it'll just give you a bit more of a flavour of the types of issues and policies which we will talk about on the course. Whether Susanna, would you like to, just in case, to give people an opportunity just for a couple of minutes, is there anything you would like to sort of summarise as a concluding remark?
Well, just to kind of say, University of Westminster is like studying with one big family. Not only we are in the heart of London, but you will see we have many great services for students. We have very active students' union with so many interesting and exciting societies and clubs, and they run many events. So the student life at Westminster is very, very exciting. Plus students can also have can opt to study a foreign language as part of a polylang. So it's really, there are many opportunities for students, and the course is very practical. Students will make friendships kind of for life when collaborating with students in the seminars. So it's a really great opportunity to come to the UK for 1 year, gain a British degree, and then kind of make all these contacts, have a visit overseas, as well as kind of meet students from many countries, as we are a very international university, one of the most international university actually in the UK. So yeah, it is a great place to come and study and have that experience.
Thanks, Susanna. Yeah, I would just echo those sentiments that I think one programme is not right for everybody, but if you would like to extend your knowledge of business and you're interested in thinking that you might be working for a company that is involved in trade in some way, this is a great opportunity to kind of develop your skills. I think, as Susanna said, you're going to be within a sort of quite international class, so you'll get to learn a lot more about what it means to work in the world of international business. And I think this is quite a specialised programme which has been designed particularly to support students who might join us for the final year. So I do hope we provided some information today that's useful for you. Please do not hesitate to contact us if we can provide any more clarification. And I do hope that some of you might join us. And of course, if you do join us for this programme, I would really encourage you to knock on my door and say that we've met online at this webinar, and it would be a great pleasure for me. So with that, I think we'll conclude today's session, and really many thanks, Susanna, for joining me, and thanks to everybody for their excellent questions, and for joining us from all over the world, which really is exactly what we want to see when this September the international cohort will be represented in a similar way to what we've had today on the webinar. Okay, so
Yes.
Goodbye and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.